this is Scott Radio. Welcome to What's Going On podcast, Culbertson Land Claim Scam Edition. I'm going to go around and interview elders in the community. I'm going to find out what they think and what they got to say about this. And you make your own decision. Later. Yeah, I'm concerned about this. I've been watching what's going on, and they're doing another bullshit too. I wanted to read it to you so you hear it, but they're claiming that they want 25%. If 25% of the ban list, so that's the list that Indian Affairs has for here. If 25% of them make a vote, then they're going to claim that the people have given them the support to make a decision about the land and the money. And they said if 50% of that 25 vote yes, then they're going to go with it. So they're currently claiming, I don't know, it's like 9,000 or 8,000, something like that, band members here. And there's only 2,000 of us that live in the community. And then 8,000, oh, that's what it is. It's 10,000. 2,000 live here, 8,000 and some live off. And they said if they get 25% of that, that's 2,500 people or about. And if they get half of that, it's only like 1,100 and some people, 1,180 people vote yes, then they're going to take the money and do the land transfer. They'll get that off the reserve, just people that don't know any better. They're just, we're going to get $30 million in a few hundred acres? Sure.
Yeah,
not even know anything.
That's all these guys know, but they don't know anything about our history.
Yeah.
They don't know anything. They don't even, the language is lost. They don't know. Mostly, they don't know anything about it.
Yeah. So what I'm worried about is that they went out and they did the mail out from Indian Affairs did the mail out. When you got your thing in the mail, it didn't come from the band office. It came from somewhere else, BC or Barrie, Ontario or something. It was from Indian Affairs, sent it to everybody. And they're the only ones that have a list of everybody's addresses. So we can't even inform everybody. We can't even reach out and send a mail to all of our members to say, hey, this is going on. It's a scam.
Oh, yeah. You know what else is a scam? Is sitting in with the council.
Are they?
You know, they hired them to sit in with them so they could say, well, we got a traditional body.
Oh, shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you know something? And they can't even tell the people because, see, that's they got a gag order on them. They are not allowed to speak about any of the business they do, and they're doing business in the line of Longhouse. They get the Longhouse credit.
Oh, we need to investigate that, because if that's the case, then they gotta go. You know, just like I did, our laws say that's treason.
Yeah, but see, this is happening right now. This is happening. I found this out the other day.
Did you?
Yeah, I just come in there and all of a sudden.
Well, we need to dig all the skeletons.
See, they're doing business on behalf of all the people without the people knowing.
Well,
the people can't even answer the people when the people ask them because they've got a gag order on them, and they're probably getting money for it.
Probably are. Honorarium for coming to meeting or language money or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Something went funny because when I was gone, they built that longhouse. That money come in, and I don't never told me how or when because I had nothing to do with that.
I've been thinking. It seems to me that we need to move forward with the land registry that you worked on before, and go and start seizing control of these lands that these bank councils trying to claim. Anyways, he was saying a few points there, suggestions about things that need to get put out there publicly, you know. And I recorded what we were talking about, but he said it's got to be known here that the Christians don't get a voice on this land. The way this place is set aside, it was set aside for the Six Nations, the Longhouse people, and under the Tyendinaga, the way this is structured. And the Crown and the Queen, they recognize that. That was who was... And that's very important. And it goes back to the 1701. Because the 1701 outlines that we've got underlying title here. Because we offer to the Crown the opportunity to set up castles in our hunting grounds, which this is the northern hunting ground, and we tell the Queen, tell the Crown, the King at the time, that he can put up castles and his people can garrison in the castles and they can make gardens around the castles and they can use the land to the depth of the plow. That means fee simple, because you're not allowed to use the aggregate or the underneath, just the surface.
4
right?
inches.
4 inches.
4 inches.
Just the surface. So that's us giving fee simple to the king. He's only allowed to use it just to the depth of the plow, his people, which means that we maintained underlying title. All the mineral rights, all the decision making, and ultimately it's our land, our decision about it. If we decide we're no longer friends, then they got to get the fuck off our land. That's the way that is. So there's something more important about that 1701 that reminded me when he said that about the Christians have got no say here. It says in the 1701, it's a treaty between the Christians and the Indians. We're separate from the Christians. And the Indians, the ones that are following our way, Ungahume, we are the ones holding the title of the land. And the Christian Indians aren't. And that's what he was reminding me. He's talking about that. And I remember that when I was a kid because I heard about that. Sitting right here, actually. But that's important and needs to be a part because what they're talking about in there, fee simple, and that we're gonna this thing is gonna buy it from this guy and the farmer, and then they're gonna put it in this trust, and then they're gonna sign over the fee simple title to the federal government, and then the federal government's gonna make it reserved. But none of that has anything to do with that. We have the title to the land, like the inherent title with below that of the crown. We right, and so. The problem with the Simcoe Deed, if you rest on the Simcoe Deed, is that the Simcoe Deed doesn't articulate what actually was negotiated. Because, and I think it's important that people are aware of it. Like he was saying, people don't know our history. Because when we went to Lachine, we were there for, I think, 5 years. When John Deserano initiated the conversation about the lands over here, it started with a threat to take Fort Frontenac. And he said that it would be easier for us to remove the British from our lands than it would be to remove the Americans from our lands. And it never was understood that it wasn't our lands. And then, so what they negotiated was an agreement about where we would go to settle, where the British wouldn't settle. It was an agreement about where it would be lands that would be no non-Ungahume to live. It was our homeland again. We were going to make a new homeland. I read the letters back and forth. And then when they came here, they sent the king sent the highest guy in the land to be able to sign off on the map. It was the agreement. The map itself was the agreement. They're going to draw it off, and then and it says on there the Mohawks will pitch their tents in the spring of whenever it was, 1783 maybe, or something like that, 1784. And it's signed by John, and it's signed by the map maker, the cartographer. That's the legal binding document, right? And it says on there that the northern boundary be left open for any of the other 6 nations if they wish to attend. So that original negotiation is that this land is set aside for the Mohawks, the Mohawk Tract on the North Shore, and the northern boundary left open for any of the other 6 nations. It was now closed. That means that there are not to be any Europeans settling anywhere north of us either, all the way up until where the 1701 ends, because it's our title of our land, right? That's what was negotiated. So later, the Simcoe Deed gets dropped off at John Deserano's house, at his house, and he wasn't even home. But that had happened 9 years later, or 8 years later, and it was on account of John kept complaining that they wanted some sort of a document, a deed, or some sort of thing because the European people kept settling on lands. They're saying, you can't live on this land. They said, well, how's it your land? You know, like, we're free to go. Because of confusion over the 1701. And that they were allowed to set up castles and that they could farm it, right? So they're going to live over. Because it's the Beaver Bull. And everybody's, all the signers of the Beaver Bull. The 1701 is allowing the British to join the Beaver Bull is what it is. Where everybody's using the hunting grounds in a certain manner. Right? You can use it, but you don't own them.
See, we give that 1701, we give them that power on that land for a reason, because we were so poor from fighting. We were down to nothing. We were down to nothing, and the French was acting up, and they were having the Beaver War, right? Because they wanted to come into the north, and the French was all over here. And they moved the 7 forts in the French. And that's how come the 1701 took place. I don't know, you probably read that, eh? Mm-hmm. You've read that, see? But in the whole, back in the hole, like this chunk here, this their Simcoe Deed, it wasn't given to the Mohawks of the Bay Quinte. Mm-hmm. See, that was given to the Confederacy. This belongs to the this chunk of land, actually in thought on our side, was given to the Confederacy, because what happens, we're on both sides, and the rest of the nations weren't up and fighting like we were. You know, they weren't. They were willing to just like take what they could get. You know, and this is why they all run. When Joseph Brant killed his son, had to fight there at Carrion Place, killed his son, they all run to Oswego, following, because that was all Mohawk. That was our promised land at that time, eh? They left here. They all just took off. That's why they're all up there, and they call it Six Nations. But see, any land dealings and handlings that we do, any place, they're all supposed to come together. Don't matter if they're on the American side or Cunnawaga and Brantford, or they're not supposed to, like here, they're handling this all by themselves. And it's very illegal. See, here there was only, there was, I think, was it 9 families? Mm-hmm. 9 families here, I think, and there was 2 families of Delawares that stayed here. Well, after the years, nobody wants to be Delaware again. The language is all right, you know. But that's what happened here. They all took off. All of the rest of the nations took off when, you know, our Carrion Place is. Mm-hmm. You know, at Brighton. Yeah. Well, that's where he killed his son. That's where we were, because he wouldn't move back on the land till we got a title. See, that is what, if you read, that's when Joseph Brant went to England, mm-hmm, to get that all straightened around. Probably made more problems than he did. But that's what that's what happened when they got in a fight. The traditional body, and then when they got in a fight, that Joseph Brant grabbed the poker, and he hit his own son, killed him. Mm-hmm. Killed him right there. See, they didn't fight then, and they didn't have the right to fight, because in order to fight or like that, and they have to get an order to do that. You know, they have an order to. So he walked away, and nobody touched him. They just, you know, everybody was worked up, but that was one of our big policies. We couldn't fight on our own body. Everybody had to know that. So when we're going to do something, mm-hmm, and then we send that out with the turtles, eh? Mm-hmm. That would go through the turtles. So the women went and handed that to the turtles. That is why things happened here, and it would take so long before they would rebel, eh?
we're trying to figure out when did Mohawks and Quinte happen? Like, how did that happen? You know what I mean? Like, as a thing, as a council or as a body or as a because when you're reading it, it just says the Mohawks and the Mohawk Tract, right? And then all of a sudden we get these two words, Tyendinaga and Mohawks and Quinte, and we're like, where did that come from?
See, that started after band council when they were started. See, even before 1924, they were dealing with the Christian body was dealing with Ottawa through the churches and stuff, and they were all Mohawks there, so that's what they called them, Mohawks of the Bay Quinte. So that's not a true title to anything, really. That's just somebody just. But it see they walked away from their own title. It's like you call it up there, Six Nation. Well, that's not Six Nation, is it? The government was furnishing, sending their ministers down, and getting involved, push that in. So you couldn't get no. See that they were supposed to look after our medical package, our money, and stuff like this. And they were sending a minister. They were sending these ministers down, and they wouldn't give welfare to the traditional body. They wouldn't give the money to them. They would hand it out by the ministers. You understand? They were taking and then after that they would hand it out among the Christian side. They would handle that.
So you know where it talks about the gifts, right? Like those exchange. So the transfers of money for the owings on leasing and that sort of stuff, instead of it going to the traditional council, the body, they were funneling it through the minister and operating it through the church. And then the people would get it that way. But then they would say, well, you weren't in church on Sunday, and so you didn't get none of them. So they were forcing the people to practice the Christian stuff even when they didn't want to. A lot of the older people here, when I was younger, would tell you that their parents, they would always say that, I heard this many times, my dad wasn't a Christian, didn't believe in it, but my mother made us go to Sunday school. And it was on account of them having a show that they were playing ball so they could get the financial resources that they needed, because they banned them from being able to leave here, right? It made it near impossible to survive. And so those are the sort of things going on. He told me a story recently. I want you to remind me about this, that the two churches were fighting over the Indian Affairs money, the federal government money.
Oh, yeah.
And they got fighting between them.
That's the Baptist. You know, the Baptist was here too, in Anglican. And they got, because they were sending money to Ottawa through these ministers, I guess they called them. And they were giving it to the people. And they got in problem with that. They got a scrap because one wanted it down. So they burnt the Baptist church down. They burned it down. They're out. We got a Baptist graveyard. No church here. I never know anybody to be Baptist here. Right. That's what they did. They were in control. They just took over. That's what they did. See, and you look at our money, I don't know what happened or how it happened, really. See, they got all our money. See, that's when they built that railroad money. They built the university in Toronto. All that money, they were supposed to be looking after our money for us. They didn't, that's not to spend it. But they turned that all around on us. And see, band council, they put on the table and they would just sign it off to them, wouldn't they? It had to be like that, eh? Because them guys in Ottawa, they wouldn't take that responsibility on their own, would they? Mm-hmm. They had to get somebody from this end, eh, that didn't know what the hell they were doing, eh?
Are you familiar with the Thunderwater movement here?
I know of it, and then, see, that's not long. That goes back into the 30s, eh?
Mm-hmm. 20s and 30s?
Yeah. See, the Martins, You know,
Like Big Lou and them?
Big Lou's, you know, Kathleen,
Yeah.
her grandmother, she was married to this Martin, and this Martin lived in Desrona. They were supposed to be here. And when they barred Thunderwater from coming into Canada, they would let him come back, eh? All the Christians said, see, you give me your money, he run away with your money. He didn't run away, he couldn't come back, eh? And this here Martin, he was his partner. You know, that's Big Lou's great-grandfather.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's how the Martins got. They're not from here.
They're from Akwesasne.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how the Martins got here. See, they're not originally from here, but they were with the Thunderwater movement. That's I've just heard.
Which was really big in Akwesasne too. Yeah.
I've been just told these stories. See, I haven't got any education, but I've been telling all these stories how things went. You know, which way they went and how they went and everything. But that's all I know about the Thunderwater movement. I don't even know what happened to them or where. I asked people, but some of the old people, well, they're gone now. But they said, yeah, they remember them well, and Dad used to talk about them. But he said, but I don't know whatever happened to him. Like when he went back, they barred him from coming into Canada, eh?
Right.
But other than that, I have no idea. They could have killed him, for all I know. But they had meetings, many meetings, and they talk about the agent would be trying to listen in on our meetings.
That was in
The Indian agent. The Indian agent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, at the same time, that's when the church got so powerful here, and the traditional people actually just went underground. It wouldn't be good to be done because and it shows bad here because you see some of the old people, especially the women. You can't say anything bad about the Anglican Church or wherever you're in for. It's the same as down Caughnawaga. You see them talk about the Catholic Church. Oh, it's so great. We're gonna, you know, that whole, and that's the way our women was here. If you talk about, see, but all that Christian movement and see, the Orange Lodge was a big thing here. See, but that's gone. The women's lodge is gone. You know, they had a women's lodge and a men's lodge. And their lodge, I don't even know if they use it anymore.
I think they might do some bingo over there or something. I don't know.
They had the building.
And what was the ideology or the way of thinking of the Orange Lodge? Like what
Christian.
did they actually do?
It's Christian. It's a Christian lodge. Eh? You know,
Yeah.
You don't know what the lodge is, Christian lodge.
I'm more familiar with it as like a quasi, almost like a paramilitary force, like very anti-Catholic, very pro-empire.
Yeah, well, that's what they were in, and they brought that in with our at that time against our traditional body.
It was used to put it down?
Yes, just like they do the shows with against the Catholic, because it's anti against the Catholic, eh?
Yeah.
But it worked the same thing with our Indian. See, and at that time, all our people, you take, I'd say maybe 90% of our talk good Mohawk. See, the people, so they understood, they pushed it, and they would take fabulous. My dad was in the lodge. He was a drummer in the Orange Lodge, and they would have a big canoe, you know, and my uncle Gordy, that would be on like his grandfather's brother. He was a fifer. You know, the fighting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what it would. And they would take them on huge, big picnics. And back here, you know, back north of the reserve, there was that was real strong Catholic. And them guys would set them guys up. They would give them booze and everything. Big party. And they called the Lion's Den. and they would get all the boys here. They'd go back there and kick the shit out of them. Yeah, right here. Oh, there's a, and before that, they used to do that. Go back into the States. You probably read on that, eh? They would get raiding parties years after everything was settled, and they would blame the Indians for it. But the way that I understand it was many white people that with Indians, they would go raid on the farmers over there, raid hell with farm, come back. Yeah, after they were, because all these guys, we got all kinds of people here in Prince Edward County that's loyalists, white people, that's loyalists. And they even wrote, Sean Brandt, he wrote that and told us that we were Empire loyalists. Yeah, and he things when he was passing through school there. Yeah. Once in a while I get after him both. Jam us, you're a loyalist? Yeah. But see,
well, those ones that were pushing the Orange Lodge probably were.
Well, the Orange Lodge come up after that. What was raised up, and this is where the Christians, see, the Christians come at around in 1924, the Christians, they got really strong. The Anglican Church, they pushed. And then in the 30s, that kind of died out. And then Pentecostals coming in the 30s. That was in around the Thunderwater movement. Last of that. See, that's and both of them come at the time that we didn't need them. You know what I mean? We were because it was hard to put our people together, because it's like happening now. Everybody's got a free hand at everything, so everybody thinks differently. They don't go in our parties. They don't follow the clan. See, this is what's happened here. You've got 2-3 different parties here on the red here, right?
Can you explain that? The long hairs and the short hairs, is it?
What's that?
What are the two? Can you explain those two parties? Where they
that I don't know the name in Indian for that, for the long hair.
Yeah, Ronoquizers. That's the same word they use. The Seven Nations of Canada bunch use for their leaders. They got long whiskers or long hair. Yeah, the long hair is one. And then they got short hair is one. Well, that's a little bit separate thing. That's like of the political parties. They one is supposed to be like more traditional in the way of thinking, and then the other one's supposed to be more like a short hair, being more conservative, or I guess more like new. That's how they sold the story, but both of them are in conflict with the traditional people, really. The hard thing is that here, when band council system first come, they got a lot of pressure, and they were refusing to give them the payments and stuff.
No, I can't. Give it to these guys.
And so for a little while, the people agreed to give it a try, and so they put the traditional chiefs in, and even the Mohawk Nation Council secretary was the secretary for the council for a little while.
Do you want a coffee, anybody?
Yep.
Want one? Want one too? I do.
And then you do. You're not having one. And then after a little while, they decided they didn't want that. The people tried it out, and then they had a vote. They all gathered together, and everybody come together, and they said, "No, we don't want to do that." And back then, the way I understand it, is that when they had a vote, everybody would come together and they'd show hands, whether they're in agreement or not, or they'd speak out about it. They didn't do this ballot thing in hidden. It was you were on the open, everybody's seen, right? And whether they agree or not agree, but they chose to not. They didn't want that. But that was when that Green, and there was a few of them. They didn't want to give up that money and that power, and so they went to Ottawa trying to keep it going anyways. And then that's the division, the fight started.
See that elected band council that come in, they promised a lot, and it started out to be fairly good. See, because what they promised the people here, what they promised the people for the clans, they promised them 4 grand councils a year. So we're supposed to meet 4 times a year. Would meet with our problems for the people to settle before, you know, to bring to a head. So we matched the other 4 grand councils like on the other rights, eh? And my dad said they stopped it real way back in the 30s. They stopped it. They said the band council had took over everything completely. But in that band council, when they voted first, that's what they had in there. They did do that for a while, then they dropped off the band council. So it took the traditional system out, eh? And this is what happened, because that's our traditional system. Everybody's got a voice, eh?
Hey guys, it's Scott Narnia here. I'd love you to check out the rest of our episodes. Look us up on www.realpeoples.media. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and YouTube. We have a WGO podcast, YouTube, and Facebook account, but you can find everything on Real People's Media as well. Don't forget to follow, like, and share. Can't wait to see you guys again.